Yes, recently this idea made myself to change a practice because we were learned in the pediatric residency to exterminate all parasites of the patients. And as we were in a country in the end of the last century, we had a lot of deaths because of diarrhea and maybe parasites, and so we are learning, exterminate all parasites, do regularly antiparasitical drugs, and I did it in my office. So when I came in contact with these studies, and I said, it's very important to see this, because why we don't see this kind of this prevalence, this big prevalence of these modern diseases in the inner lands. So maybe these parasites, when balanced with the gut flora, they didn't do any harm. And we said it. We saw an exam with a parasite, and let's terminate it. So I changed even my practice. So when I see a symptomatic children, I didn't even ask for a stool exam, or if they have symptoms, and if I think that it was caused by a parasite, I treat. But it's a new world. So I think for us pediatricians, we have to really change views. But I don't think this message to avoid excessive antibiotics use and microbial use and parasitical use aren't spread yet. It's right. Because of this, I wanted to have this talk with you and to put people and even doctors here, my colleagues, to see it, because it's the new view, it's the new way. It's the way.
I will tell you, there's some very interesting data about antibiotics. I'm sure you're aware of that. One dose of antibiotics actually can change the gut microbiome for up to a year.
2 years. I saw 2 years.
Well, I'm sure. To me, I'll be honest with you. To me, I have found that sometimes you can see changes that really don't come back, that you don't see it ever come back to its baseline. And sometimes we really don't ever know exactly what we're doing, because think about when a baby is born, let's say to a mother as group B strep, or let's say baby is born by C-section, or let's say the mother had a fever, and that could be because she had an epidural. It might not be because she actually had an infection. Sometimes having a very prolonged amount of time on epidural can increase the risk of fever, but not infection. So these babies can be given from day one of life a dose of antibiotics. And the truth is, we really don't ever know what it would have been otherwise when we're doing those kinds of changes to the microbiome. So I think, we really do need to be mindful. And what I want to mention, which I don't talk about a lot in this book, although perhaps in a future book I will, is that in our, we don't really think about how to strengthen the immune system by using things like botanicals, where there's actually a very wide body of literature looking at things like certain mushrooms, right? Like reishi mushroom, maitake, shiitake, turkey tail, where actually even turkey tail is now being studied as a way to fight breast cancer. Unbelievable. The way to strengthen the immune system.
No, here in Brazil, we have a movement. I have this book for to people in the different regions of the country to try to get edible, non-conventional plants.
Yes.
To put in the food, because we have here in the Northeast, we have local plants, and people is a little bit have a prejudice on this, because they think that these plants are for the poor people sometimes, but I think they are very rich, and we have this movement here yet. We have people in the agricultural area trying to put some lights on these non-conventional plants. I think you are very right on this. But Uh, in this area of disease, I think it's the same. You have the same problems in the United States and even more than. But Brazil, it's a developing country, but we are having rising rates of immune diseases and autoimmune diseases and obesity and metabolic syndrome in children. It's very, I'm very worried with it. So how do you think you can reverse this tendency? Because we are seeing better incomes here, better per capita incomes, but poor health of our kids on the other side. So how can we make people know how to get quality food without spending too much?
Right. Well, I think it's so, there's an irony to this idea that people who are eating the plants, are sort of like not the sophisticated ones, and that we're so sophisticated as we're doing what we call better living through chemistry, right? Or better living through chemicals. So, what I would say is like, it's actually, we are very wealthy in the kind of plants that we need to be healthy. Like in the United States, and I think this is true in many places, we have dandelions, which grow everywhere. And dandelions, many people in my own neighborhood are spraying poison on the pesticides on the lawn to kill the dandelions. They don't look nice, they're disgusting, they're ugly, they're invasive. Meanwhile, the dandelions, first of all, come back every single time, but also they're healthy. Every part of the plant is nutritious and medicinal. Actually, the root, you can make a tea from the root. It is so good for the liver. It is so nutritive, and the bitter compounds that are in this root, and actually also in the greens of the dandelion, are so beneficial for our digestive tract. It helps with anything from constipation and bloating and burping to blood sugar levels being more stabilized, to boosting the immune system in the digestive tract and even in the ear, nose, and throat. So meaning you're fighting flu, you're fighting the cold. Here we have this common plant. We're trying to get rid of it because we don't think it looks nice. And it's a medicinal powerhouse. And it's tasty. I mean, it's bitter. So like little kids are not going to necessarily suck it down, but having a little bit of that in the food is like a tremendous thing for a small kid. A little goes a long way. So I think for one thing, looking at what's right at under our feet, right at our fingertips is the first thing. And of course, in places like Brazil, I've studied plants in Ecuador also, where we're looking in the Amazon region. It's such a biodiverse area with so many amazing plants and fruits that we don't have in other parts of the world, that are very medicinal and delicious. So it's like win-win, that's one big thing. I think we need to really, look at the quality. When we're buying food in a grocery store, its whole history is invisible to us. Everything that happened before that moment is totally invisible. And what's happening in that moment is, when you buy something in a package, it's designed in a way to make you want it, but it's not necessarily transparent in terms of what is actually in the food. There's actually a culture of deception when you look at a label. It's made to be very easy to read the marketing on the front, and on the back where there's the ingredients and the information about nutrition, it's usually very small and very hard to read, and often in words we don't really understand well. And that's on purpose. So what I recommend is to buy as little as possible in packages. So most of the food to come in, have one ingredient basically, and either not come in a package, or if it does come in a package, you're buying it and it's, a grain, or it's, salt, or, something that has literally, 1 to 2 ingredients. I think that's a huge step in the right direction. I think organic and biodynamic is ideal simply because you know that the food, soil that has a better microbiome, and that microbiome affects the health of the food and affects our health. So those are two big things that I think are very helpful to think about.
So regarding this problem with processed food or ultra processed food, I think it's a big fight we have with our environment, because I think this obesogenic environment is very difficult for the parents to overcome. But what you suggest practically in tips? What the kid? What in the book you talk about eggs, you talk about meat, you talk about selecting milk, you talk about the vegetables, the fruits. Oh, can you give some hints, little bit hints for the book? Because they ask me a lot about what I bring my kids to school, so it's very difficult. So I get with them to the mall or to the cinema, and I can't avoid them to be in contact with sugar foods or all this kind of processed food. So can you give some tips from the book, little tips?
Yeah, of course. So, I have 3 children, so I have encountered these same kinds of issues. Yeah, so as parents, we understand it's not simple, it's not easy, because we're fighting a certain kind of culture. And actually the culture it's a culture of kids and parents and schools, but it's also a corporate culture that's really done a lot of work to invest in this becoming the way we eat. So it's important to know that this is not just random. It's not just, oh, this is what kids like, but actually, for instance, with snack foods, the food industry has invested billions of dollars, not millions, but billions of dollars in learning how our brains respond to food. And like with children, looking at what areas of the brain light up, when they how much sugar they eat and what is appealing to them compared to adults, and what makes their pleasure centers activate. So this is not just by accident that this is happening.
Bliss point, huh?
Bliss point, yes. We'll talk about that in the book. And in the book, I also actually go through a potential menu and recipes that I myself feed my children. They helped me select the recipes that I included as their favorite foods. They said, oh, you have to have this, you have to include that. They're my recipes, I didn't work with a chef to do it. And I do have a list of the kinds of snacks I recommend, because snacks are a big issue. And look, as much as I would like to say never eat anything processed ever, of course, sometimes we're eating processed foods. It's just about choosing the processed food in a way that you're getting the one that's hopefully the least problematic, and doing it in moderation. Where some kids, in the United States, and my daughter used to tell me, oh, this person comes with their lunch. It's, it's processed chips, and it's a processed sandwich that the mom sent, and it's candy, and it's this. And I said, all in one lunch? She said, yes, So my idea is we'd give as much freshly cooked and unprocessed food, which for me, by the way, I'm a working parent. My husband is a working parent. I do most of the cooking. And I'm not always making a fresh thing every time. A lot of times my kids' lunch is leftovers from the night before. And it's fine. They're used to it. They like it. It's food that I put a lot of effort into making, and we eat it, all of it, And I sometimes will take the leftovers from the day before and make it into a new dinner by, let's say, a recipe I included. We make roast chicken, and then I might make the chicken into chicken salad or a chicken pot pie or something else. So all of those things. And then in terms of snacks, I like nuts. Now so many kids are allergic. We have to be more careful, but I do like nuts, and you can make them in lots of different ways that they're very tasty. Dried fruit, I think, is good. Dark chocolate is another thing which I love. It's low in sugar. It's very powerful with antioxidants, and kids like it because it's sweet. So I think that's a wonderful option. I do crystallized ginger sometimes, which is a little spicy for some kids, but other kids really, really like it. And of course, sometimes we'll do something like plantain chips or tortilla chips or even potato chips sometimes, because, you know, you want to keep it interesting. You want to keep kids feeling like they're getting things that they like and enjoy and that they're not weird or freaky. I mean, of course, my kids do think they're a little weird in what they eat, but they accept it because it's also part of our family culture. And I explain to them, and we enjoy delicious food. So the idea is the food should be delicious. And then the other things, when they go to a birthday party or whatever, they'll have treats. And those treats are not always things I like, but it's a treat. And it's not what we're going to have in our home. And it's not what we're going to serve every day or even most of the time.
So in this area, I had an experience with my little daughter. She's 4, and she likes a lot of bitter things. Yeah. And when I tell to my patients in the office, oh, take real chocolate, because you are not eating chocolate, you are eating candy. So my hint, and it was very good with her, I started to give her like 50-50 chocolate. And then I got to 60% of cocoa, and now she's having 85% of cocoa. Great, she likes a lot, and she's 4. So yeah. I think we can change the taste of the things for the little children. They like all these sweet things, but I'm in my view and in my experience, my own experience as a father, I think you can change. And as you said, sometimes you have some treats. It's not a problem, but day by day, it's a problem. It's inevitable that you have problem when you have a lot of food dyes, a lot of coloring that you put in the book. Very important. The kind of the monotonous diet, you have a diet that don't have a lot of different foods, and it's a problem. I think that's the main problem.